Coming up on The Daily with me, Neil Paterson, the Duchess of Sussex is back on TV. Her new lifestyle series, With Love Meghan, just dropped on Netflix. So what's it all about?
Donald Trump is heading back to the White House.
Together we can truly make America great again.
We are in for an unpredictable but fascinating 4 years.
And we're going to be following every twist and turn for the first 100 days. We'll be bringing you the latest updates and analysis first thing every morning. So join me, James Matthews.
Me, Martha Kellner.
And me, Mark Stone.
For Trump 100, every weekday at 6 a.m, wherever you get your podcasts.
And the best thing about Koreatown, you could go to all ages clubs and karaoke bars.
I was part of dance crews, all that stuff.
You
know?
were?
Yeah.
No one talks
With Love
about
Meghan is the latest addition to Netflix. Glossy and glamorous, just like its host. I suppose you'd call it an aspirational lifestyle series. And yes, therefore, it's a departure in tone from the content she and Harry have more recently created. But it's not entirely new to her. Back when she was mere Meghan Markle, she did have a rather successful blog called The Tig. Recipes, interior design, fashion, and so on. So, expectations are high. Some even suggesting it could be make or break for the couple. Given their Netflix deal, said to be worth $100 million, hasn't thus far borne much fruit, let alone artisanal jam. Our royal correspondent is Rhiannon Mills. She has been watching With Love Meghan this very morning. How is it?
Look, I don't think I'm her target audience. My house will not be in Homes and Gardens magazine. I'm not a fabulous hostess. I don't make my own hummus. And the programme, frankly, has made me feel like a failure. Just in her first episode, she manages to make candles. She makes a cake. She even makes bath salts for her friend. At my house, if you come round, you're lucky if you get a towel on the bed. So, yeah, it's a real lifestyle programme. It's targeted at those who love kind of that homemaking stuff. They're 30-minute episodes, and each one feels like one of those Instagram reels that you click on and you go, yeah, I should make that cake one day, but then you never get around to it. That's kind of my upsum, I suppose.
So if we were comparing this as a product to something else that it's already out there, I mean, what are we saying? Martha Stewart, Gwyneth Paltrow?
Yeah, I think it's all of the above. Someone talked to me about Pamela Anderson, who's done a very similar show where it's kind of like, come into my home. This isn't Meghan's home, though, and she does kind of very clearly say that it's not her house that she's cooking in, but it's her welcoming people in. It's quite an interesting device that she's used because every episode she kind of hosts one of her friends, some celebrity chefs as well. And what really stands out for me is just how upbeat she is. Like, you can't help but compare this to the other big TV events that we've seen around Harry and Meghan. And this is a big TV event. I suspect lots of people at 8 o'clock this morning were kind of clicking on the 8 different episodes to kind of binge watch it. Yeah, if you remember the big other TV events, that Oprah interview, the other Netflix documentary talking about Harry and Meghan moving away from royal life, it was very doom, gloom. We're the victims. We felt pushed out. We had to move away. This just feels completely different. It feels like a reset and a bit of a rebrand for Meghan. And there's some kind of clever ways in which she tries to, I suppose, tell us more about herself, or at least refresh our mind about bits of her that we might have forgotten about.
Personal highlights for you, Rhiannon. I mean, for me, it was the point where she says into camera, I feel like you're watching me fall in love, as she eats a turnip. That was a highlight for me.
Look, it is very saccharine and it is very cheesy. She's got this obsession with flour sprinkles.
What are they?
Like, if you've been to like a posh bakery or something, they're like kind of little dry. I can see you going into a posh bakery now, Neil. Little kind of dried sprinkles of flowers. There's a lot of that. She talks a lot about how she cooks bacon and Harry's always in the kitchen and the dogs are always in the kitchen. There are just these funny little moments. But look, if I have my royal correspondent hat on, I was just constantly trying to look out for those nods to the royal family, I suppose, and her royal life. What is really interesting is her friends are there in the kitchen and they're asking her questions about her childhood, about her time when she was working on Suits. So she talks a lot about her life before the royal family. She then also talks a bit about her family now, but she doesn't directly really talk about the royal stuff, apart from, she says about her friend Daniel. He's been a friend for 15 years. He's been in my life for the before, the during, and the after. There is this underlying sense of, she talks about reconnecting with herself, healing, and towards the end of episode 8, she also says about how part of that creativity that she's missed out on so much, you do get that sense that we've heard before of what she felt suppressed kind of while she had that royal life.
Do we see Harry? Do we see the kids at all?
A little bit, but really a little bit. So there's the odd kind of mobile phone video, which Harry's obviously filming. So there's one of him, he sort of dares to take the mickey out of her as she's trying to make this balloon arch for a children's party, sort of saying, what is it? And she says, well, it's going to be a balloon arch. And then in the final episode, he turns up at this brunch party that she's organised, along with her mum, Doria. We don't see the children. We hear about the children. We hear about Archie. We don't hear about Lilibet, actually. But I think it shows that for her, this has been her project, but you can't get away from the fact that she's able to do this project because she married into the royal family. There is also an interesting part where one of her friends, Mindy, is talking to her and calls her Meghan Markle. And Meghan doesn't seem to really like that because she says, it's so funny that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know that I'm Sussex now. You have kids and you say, I share my name with my children and I didn't know how meaningful that would be, but it just means so much to say this is our family name, our little family name. And I thought that was quite telling and did kind of insert the royal thing right into the middle of this project, which is, Meghan Part 2, I suppose.
Rhiannon, who exactly is this show supposed to be pitched at? I mean, the United States is currently going through a cost of living crisis. We've seen eggs increase in price by 50% since the autumn. I mean, is it solely aimed at the residents of Montecito?
But I think as we're all sat there in our pyjamas, we quite like looking at other people's lives, don't we? And thinking, oh, that'd be quite nice if I could have time to make that cake. It kind of ties in with that whole aspirational lifestyle thing that we now have with all social media, especially with Instagram. She was asked in an interview, oh, does this mean you're an influencer? And she sort of responded, well, no, but if it influences, then that's another thing. So I think she probably sees the idea of her being an influencer as being a bit below her. People have also said, oh, does this mean you're a trad wife, a traditional wife? And she sort of, again, says, no, this is just about doing what she can to make people around her happy. But I think she's trying to kind of tap into that aspirational lifestyle trend, I suppose.
What I am struggling with is pretty straightforward. I get that there are people in Montecito for whom this will be entertaining. I get that there are people in California for whom this is entertaining. On this side of the Atlantic, I'm just not so sure. I mean, compare and contrast US and UK audiences.
Look, we talked about it a lot when Harry and Meghan stepped away from royal life. There was that kind of culture divide. Yes, we share a language, but I think there is a lot of this that it is a bit cheesy, and over here we are more cynical. Netflix, however, will know that whether you love Meghan or loathe her, people will click on it. They will want to watch to find out what exactly this new project is all about. And ultimately, it does all come down to business. And that's ultimately why she's had to do this programme. But you do get the sense that she's enjoying it. She's basically going back to what she did before she met Harry. She even talks about the TIG, that lifestyle blog that she set up when she was acting on Suits.
Well, I suppose from Netflix's perspective, they want her to have a hit. They need her to have a hit because the stuff that's come out up until this point hasn't been universally well received. I'm thinking of the Polo show here.
What, your favourite?
Right.
You loved that Polo show, didn't you? You loved it. Yeah. So the Polo show bombed. And so Netflix will want to be recouping some of their money. In a way, it's a bit like when Harry wrote his book Spare, you got the impression that he had to give probably more than he maybe wanted in terms of an insight into his family life. And I think Meghan, with this show as well, probably has had to kind of give more than, well, certainly maybe give more than Harry would want her to in terms of letting them into her personal life. But
she hasn't even let them into her home. It's not filmed in her home. I mean, it's all artifice, isn't it?
Well, we do get to go and see where her chickens are, and we do get to go and see where the beehives are, and the orchards. But no, the house is not hers. But I can imagine her sitting down with Harry and that being a kind of red line of, no, they're not coming in our house. Yeah, privacy and Harry, as we know, it's an issue that's very close to his heart, and he is very passionate about protecting his family.
But just in terms of the business, as you mentioned, I mean, this is all presumably cross-promotional for the lifestyle brand that she has attempted to launch on multiple occasions now.
Well, she even talked in this interview before this programme came out about how it's been a learning curve, and she thanked those who've given her the space to learn and move through what have been some sort of mistakes around this. American Riviera, of course, was the brand that was launched with that kind of sepia video and her making jam and things. That brand's had to go because of trademark issues. So instead, she's launched As Ever. One of her friends in one of the programmes does talk about how she received a pot of Meghan's jam, and Meghan quite pointedly talks about how she made that jam on her own stove, in her own kitchen, and then wanted to send it out to her friends. So it feels like a really personal passion project for Meghan. But in the end, they have to make money. What I find fascinating, I was thinking about it over the weekend, it is 5 years ago to the week that they were doing their final official royal duties, which culminated in those awful pictures from the Commonwealth Day service where members of the royal family just didn't want to look at them, and it was just horrendous. And now 5 years on, I think we're still asking questions about how it's all going to work. Back then, we were wondering financially how could they step away and be independent. And I think what we've seen is there have been significant hurdles, and that there continue to be hurdles that they're going to have to face in the future.
But clearly this is predominantly about the business. It's about the lifestyle brand. It is, as you say, about them making money. But it is also at the same time a rebranding exercise. And the problem, I think, is this, that the rebrand has happened so many times now that I'm not sure that people know what Harry and Meghan stand for. Is it a life of service? Is it a life of entrepreneurship? Is it about well-being? I don't know anymore.
But how do you marry those two things, kind of public service and duty and having to make money? And that is something that other members of the royal family haven't had to grapple with. And now Harry and Meghan are having to do that. Look, if you think the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, she's faced criticism over the years in terms of some of her endorsements or books that she's written. It was inevitable that Harry and Meghan, there was going to be this kind of microscope on everything that they did and whether it was embarrassing for other members of the royal family or not. Whether we like the tone of this show or not, I think it probably is authentically Meghan. Presenting-wise, she seems a bit stiff at times and a bit uncomfortable, but maybe they'll give her another series to kind of relax a bit more into it. And I think they are still obviously trying to find their feet in terms of what they want to do long term. Harry would say, of course, that the likes of the Invictus Games has always been his passion project and will continue to be so. Centre Bali as well. But yeah, how do you marry the philanthropic stuff with actually having to fund your lifestyle? And look, they live in Montecito. They are going to need a lot of money to fund that lifestyle.
You've been through, all 8 episodes, Rhiannon, and I know you say that you're not the target audience, but what notes have you taken down? What recipes will you be trying?
What, when I've got time? Do you know what? Some bath salts, that's what I'd like someone to make me. Do you know what? The pasta recipe in the first one seemed quite good. I will give her this. She does try to do recipes where it's sort of a one-pan thing. So not too much washing up. So that's pretty good. I don't know. I just don't think I've got time. Is that a good enough excuse?
That's a perfect excuse. Though I am looking forward to your next dinner party, Rhiannon. I'm sure it will be hosted fantastically. Thanks very much.
Bag of crisps. That's what you'll get. Bag of crisps.
Thanks, Rhiannon. That's your lot for this edition of The Daily. We are back again tomorrow.
Donald Trump is heading back to the White House.
Together we can truly make America great again.
We are in for an unpredictable but fascinating 4 years.
And we're going to be following every twist and turn for the first 100 days. We'll be bringing you the latest updates and analysis first thing every morning. So join me, James Matthews.
Me, Martha Kellner.
And me, Mark Stone.
For Trump 100 every weekday at 6 a.m, wherever you get your podcasts.